In this video, we will be taking a look at a guy trying desperately to deflect any criticism thrown at Mojang for the recent lackluster updates. To put this into perspective, we're currently at the point when we're still getting features promised all the way back for 1.17. The updated generation promised for 1.17 came in 1.18. The Deep Dark, also promised for the same update, came in 1.19, and Archaeology, which came in 1.20, was also promised, you guessed it, for 1.17. And considering that one update earlier, in 1.16, Minecraft got an entire nether overhaul, yeah, people are going to rightfully be expecting more. At this point, it's more or less a meme that Mojang employees are just playing with themselves instead of doing any work. However, according to this guy, getting more content for a game is somehow bad. You know what? How about we just take it from the man himself?
I believe it's dying because Mojang is updating it too much.
The title of this video is Why the 1.20 Minecraft update failed, and comes from Lufa. And based on the title alone, this video doesn't seem too bad, but just you wait guys, because this video takes a sharp turn for the worst real fucking quick.
I'm about to say some things that many of you will probably not like.
Oh fuck, he has an opinion disclaimer. Guess this guy is exempt from criticism, guys. Nope, video over, you can't criticize an opinion because the retards from Reddit said so. Never mind the fact that he's gonna be spewing some shit that is outright factually incorrect. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Oh, and for people bitching that I criticize his quote opinion, this is just my opinion, therefore you can't criticize me by your own logic.
At least I can only assume, because for the last few months I've seen nothing but people saying that Mojang is responsible for the death of Minecraft.
Okay, the quote death of Minecraft is definitely an over-exaggeration. However, if you wanna talk about the lackluster updates, then yes, Mojang is entirely to blame because, well, who else are you gonna blame for that shit? And before any retard says Microsoft is notoriously hands-off with their studios. Case in point, 343 Industries and Halo Infinite.
In anticipation of the 1.20 Tales and Trails update, there's been countless memes about how lazy Mojang has been with its development. They've all been really funny, from one showing Mojang developers passing out after just 30 minutes of work, to another showing them panicking after being told to add one more pixel to the game. While these memes are hilarious, a lot of people do genuinely believe that Mojang developers are lazy and even incompetent.
Well, when they're proving these memes right, time and time again, what else do you want everyone to believe? Especially considering the updates they released prior to 1.17. Well, for the most part at least, even some of those are incredibly disappointing. The point is, Mojang have proven they're competent in the past, therefore, I don't understand why expecting more from a studio behind the single largest video game in the world, owned by one of the world's biggest tech companies, is such a hard concept to grasp.
After all, shouldn't the billion-dollar company that owns Mojang be enough to get us more than one update a year? Don't we deserve more frequent updates as players, from a company who should be able to easily make them?
That is hardly the point. The point is, why in the fuck are they unable to match the level of quality content released in prior updates? Especially when there's plenty of areas in the game that are still neglected. Best example, the end. So it's not even like they don't have anything more to add either. At this point, incompetence and laziness are the only excuses they have. Especially when people are able to mod the new features within literal weeks, if not days. And those mods are in certain aspects at a higher quality than the official features. AKA, the ones people are paid to fucking make. And before anyone says, mod devs and Mojang have different standards, yeah, Mojangs are just so low that people can trip over them and fucking die.
Well, I'm gonna tell you my take, which I've never seen said before. I believe what Mojang is doing is very much intentional, not a matter of some non-existent work ethic. Many have been happy to know the 1.20 update is slated to release soon, but I'm not as excited. I don't believe Minecraft is dying because Mojang is updating it too little. I believe it's dying because Mojang is updating it too much. I believe it's dying because Mojang is updating it too much.
Holy fucking shit, this is one of the most retarded statements I've ever heard in my life. So Minecraft is dying because it has too much content. I guess Don't Starve is dead because it got a whole new lunar progression after launch, and Terraria is also dead for its updates, so is Fortnite and every other game that got frequent updates after launch. Since when is having more content in a sandbox survival video game you paid for to have fun a bad thing? You know you stoop to a new low when you're that desperate to defend Mojang that you unironically resort to the argument of they should add less, despite the fact that is the entire fucking reason people are mad at them to begin with.
I have heard so much complaining about how much time it's taken Mojang to update Minecraft to its next version. While I can understand people being frustrated with the delays and split release of the Caves and Cliffs update, as well as the removal of Fireflies, my agreement with the majority of the player base ends there. The time between updates is just too short. Let me emphasize, I don't think Mojang released updates in a well-timed manner. I believe they should have waited longer.
1 year is too much time for adding one new biome, 2 new mobs, a long overdue feature, some retextured blocks and a few quality of life features. Really? That shit takes a small team of people maybe a month to implement if they really take their sweet fucking time with it. A new biome consists of literally changing a few numbers for the noise textures and making a few new tree presets with some repurposed features. Everything else is more or less following some templates and adding a few MBT tags. The only exception maybe being archaeology, and even then, Mojang added plenty of new and interesting blocks in the past, so they have absolutely zero excuses.
You see, with every update, features are integrated into the survival experience with the intention of refreshing and expanding the game for its players. The hope is that by updating the game, 1, players might become more interested in the game, and 2, the long-term player experience might be better. While I think the number of updates we've gotten has definitely gotten players interested in the game, it's not improved their experience by any means.
Damn, I guess he's a certified mind reader now. I don't know, man, the updated cave generation seems like a really big fucking deal for cave exploration, just to name one example.
When an update is added, it naturally feels like outside DLC. Even if it looks vanilla, it still feels removed from the rest of the game that players already know.
Wow, you mean to tell me that updates add something new? I would never have guessed that.
Which is normal. When new content is added, players need to digest it in order for it to feel part of the wider game. No matter how many YouTubers they watch to explain every feature through patch notes, it still takes time for them to add the features to their own routine experience. It's kind of like how if you play Terraria, or don't start for the first time, you have to do hundreds of playthroughs before you have a complete idea of what you can do in the game. Perhaps before you would start a world only focused on the basics, but by the time you become acquainted with the features enough, through long periods of trial and error, you naturally have an edge and scope of what you can do in a new world. While Minecraft is a much less complicated game than these examples.
So, where is the problem?
What is the problem?
Its updates function the same way. Sure, you know that amethyst geodes exist, but do you know where to find them? Do you know everything you can do with them? Do you see them as a natural part of your world that seamlessly fits into your experience? Or DLC you really have to venture out of your typical gameplay loop to interact with? Maybe you do know everything about them, but believe it or not, I'm willing to say the majority of players have not done much besides look at them once and never again.
So you're basically advocating for more meaningful content, which is also what most people are asking for from these updates. So I ask again, where is the problem?
What is the problem?
You think that's a crazy thing to say? Well, guess what? That's not even accounting for the tens of thousands of players who haven't even killed the Ender Dragon yet. And it's the same thing with bees, bastions, and even conduits. It takes a long time for the larger player base to become acquainted enough with features to see them as a passive part of the world rather than a closed off one they have to venture out with to interact with. And with every update, that only gets compounded and exponentially increases the problem.
Congratulations, you just explained every video game update in existence. So why is the option to have this content be something you can do on the side a bad thing? Let me guess, he won't answer that now, will he?
But even if you are someone who knows every single feature inside out, you're never going to use them all. Of course, there's probably some players out there who have been working on the same world since the game came out, steadily becoming acclimated and enjoying the supply of updates that give them more to do, but that's not the majority. I don't have stats, but I don't think you could argue with me in saying that 90% of players that start a new world from scratch do so every year, if not month. And when they do start a new world, they have to choose which part of the game they decide to pursue, because they haven't had enough time for the updates to feel like a normal part of the game. There's just too much content that has not had enough time to process and become a part of the player experience.
I am genuinely going to break my fucking window with this video. So no update should ever be made because they don't feel like the core part of the game? What in the actual fuck is that logic? How much you guys wanna bet that this guy only plays Minecraft beta?
Having to choose between whether you give attention to the ocean or the deep dark, because you know you'll get bored before you can do both, is not a good player experience.
That just sounds like a personal problem. If someone gets bored of the game doing one piece of content and refuses to do the other, that is entirely their own fault.
But it's not your fault either. Had these features been released less frequently, the majority of players would feel much less overwhelmed, and much more attuned to their gameplay, no doubt leading to longer, more dedicated worlds.
So having less content leads to longer and dedicated worlds. How the fuck that works is some logic which I will not even pretend to understand.
In fact, while I already made a video about why Minecraft SMPs die so fast, this argument actually contributes to it.
No, the reason Minecraft SMPs die is because there is not enough content. When everyone gets maxed out and does everything they want, they get bored and leave, as testified by multiple people time and time again. So the thing that would fix this problem would be adding more post-game progression. Seriously, that is a completely oxymoronic statement.
When the majority of players get onto an SMP, it's likely they feel disconnected from the world that they once had a mastery of. Now, I'm not talking about the initial grinding stage of getting wood, iron, and diamonds. That's many players' favorites. What's really happening is that players are thinking about how much they'll have to do to make the most out of their world, and that's why so many of them stop past the early game stage and restart. They're understandably overwhelmed with how bloated and complicated the game has got, so they decide to remain in the simpler stages, where the world actually still feels like they're molding it, rather than having a set path they're expected to take.
And your source for that is? Wait, let me guess.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Our world only lasts a week. Well, yeah, a world's life is built on motivation, and nothing drains motivation faster than seeing a giant mountain of content in front of you that you've barely had time to chew on.
Once again, no, it's the other way around. The thing that kills motivation is having jack squat to do. By your logic, something like Sea of Thieves and No Man's Sky would be more beloved games at launch than they are now because they had less content. But would you look at that, they weren't. Just more proof that this guy's talking straight out of his ass.
One of the reasons why older versions of Minecraft were so much more addictive was because it took less time to master the limited amount of features, and then build off of them using your imagination.
Okay, it's confirmed at this point that this guy is a Minecraft beta elitist. By the way, he says this as he shows footage from 1.9.
Which made everyone feel much more engrossed and in control of their experience. It was like being a painter with a palette, having all the tools at your disposal to make whatever you wanted. But now, the majority of players are just trying to figure out exactly what these tools do, and don't feel free to just work on their creations.
What?
So now player discovery is also a bad thing. How is getting more tools which you can learn and master somehow worse than having less tools which you also had to learn and master? By this retarded logic, I guess music was better when cavemen just slapped rocks onto each other because something like a piano made it too confusing. This guy seriously strikes me as someone who sits on the TV and watches the couch.
Now you can't play in a world without thinking about how you haven't had enough time to touch 90% of the game's content. And meanwhile, there's people saying that Mojang should add all 3 mobs from the mob vote.
Bruh, let's see how he's gonna spin this shit.
Are you serious? Are you telling me you've tamed so many foxes, interacted with so many pandas, and just visited so many polar bears that you think we need 3 more of these ambient space wasters?
I love how he just unknowingly proved Mojang's incompetence to add meaningful content, yet he's just that fucking stupid to not realize it.
Unless you've been playing the game for 18 hours a day since it came out, I'm willing to bet you can't have thoroughly explored coral, lush caves, and the mangrove swamp enough to justify demanding more. Minecraft is a sandbox, but the lazy and uncreative want it to be an RPG, and mistake Mojang's unwillingness to pollute the game with a bad work ethic.
My brother in Christ, you just said it yourself. It's a sandbox. So why is getting more tools to play around with in a sandbox a bad thing? This shit writes itself at this point.
They rush to progress their armor and tools, build a starter house, and visit the new biome for 5 minutes before saying there's nothing to do. If you want more exploring and adventuring, play with mods. Play with mods.
This man genuinely went to all 5 stages of grief in 5 minutes. First we went from denial about Mojang's incompetence to now finally accepting it and saying, well, just play mods. At this point he's just arguing against himself.
That's a great way to get more out of your Minecraft experience. But don't expect to shove that amount of content onto the base, vanilla version of the game. The majority of the player base is simply not ready.
So Minecraft should not release updates because, quote, players are not ready? And also they're not ready based on what sources? Unless, of course,
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
One of everyone's favorite things to talk about when it comes to Minecraft's development is how much more a modder can add to the game than a mega corporation. Well, guess what? The reason why that comparison seems so bizarre is because, believe it or not, the mega corporation can add those features just as fast. They're just smarter than that.
a mega corporation is smart for not adding the things they promised and that players want in a timely manner. Serious question here, dude. Are you genuinely fucking retarded? Because now I'm starting to feel bad making this video.
If you flooded the game with a new dimension, 18 mobs, and 50 features every week, it would die. It's already been diluted and oversaturated with content as it is. Was an update necessary to keep the game going when Update Aquatic was released? Yes. But if you look at the disproportionate amount of major updates that have been added since then, you might realize the reason why Minecraft is dying is the exact opposite of what most people think.
Number 1, the game isn't dying as I mentioned before, and number 2, if most people want more content, by your own admission, why is pleasing the majority a bad thing? You really need to think before you speak.
I remember players begging for an update to Caves, and we got one so massive it had to be split into 2 parts.
And the first part contained fuck all, what's your point? 1.17 splitting into 2 parts is the least of the problems. The problem is, the update just recently became feature complete in 1.20. 2 years after the original update dropped and 3 versions later. Not to mention, this is even after they canned multiple features. They bit off more than they could chew with the generation, yes. However, everything else was only a few months of work, if even that. Did they really need over 3 extra months to figure out the warden's spawning animation and the ranged attack? And I'm not even gonna get into archaeology because that was fully functional from moment 1.
But suddenly, people are gonna riot if we don't get more interesting birch forests.
Except you conveniently neglect to mention they showed that concept art, and then when people expected them to deliver, they do, oh, concept art is not dedication. But at that point, why even fucking show it when you know people will expect you to deliver on it? I swear, either this guy is retarded or the people in Mojang are retarded. Or maybe even both.
Please. You wanna see what Minecraft would look like if we had the average double the content fans way? Welcome to hell.
It's okay, man. I know you're a little bit slow and having options in a video game must outright terrify you, but that doesn't mean everyone else feels the same.
You want every biome that's ever been shown to us to be added tomorrow, yet you've hardly touched your copper and spikes. You know what would happen if Mojang showed the 2023 Minecraft community just how many biomes and mob concepts they've been too scared of never hearing the end of? It's understandable, but just ridiculous how we've made the mistake of thinking that Minecraft needs more content for it to be interesting. Do I think there's too much stuff in Minecraft right now? Yes. Do I think it should be removed? Absolutely not.
So let me get this straight. You think Minecraft is dying because it has too much content, but you want all of it to stay regardless. So which is it? You can't have it both ways.
The reason why so many parts of Minecraft come natural to those who have played it for years is because they've had years to play it and become acquainted with it. As a player, you need to process and use content enough before it can contribute to your world's success.
So you admit that adding more updates is not a problem, which completely invalidates your entire first half of the video. I swear, you cannot be this unself-aware.
While I don't think fans would respond well to Mojang slowing down and releasing updates less frequently, it would definitely help out the player experience.
I responded to this way too many times, so I won't waste my breath repeating myself.
The updates we do have right now are great, they just haven't had enough time to become cemented into our playthroughs.
Which once again goes to show how this entire video was completely fucking pointless.
With time, every update will become second nature, a staple of the game. That's just what time does. But when the average player sees an array of features they haven't had time to get familiar with another batch on the horizon, chances are they're not going to want to press their brain trying to force it into their game. When it comes to the development of Minecraft, there's no greater game where less is more. Instead of complaining about not having enough features, start using the ones you have, or you'll never be able to appreciate them.
Look at this amount of flip-flopping. So first, updates were a bad thing because they had too much content. Then they were perfectly fine because players will learn the new features, and now it's once again a bad thing. You can't make this shit up.
Unfortunately, this is an attitude very few players have, and so due to its limited features, 1.20 will be considered a failure. If you found what I had to say in this video interesting, please consider hitting subscribe. I'm a new channel trying to get my videos out there, and subscribing would really help me out. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I'm Lufa.
And with that, we're finally done with this dog shit video. So I guess the moral of the story here is, more content in entertainment products bad because I said so. Yeah. When someone recommended this video to me, I thought he was exaggerating when he mentioned the guy's arguments, but lo and behold, this video was far worse than I could have imagined. Which is like, what, the 10 millionth time in a row that happened? However, I do enjoy these more laid-back videos rather than the serious ones. They're pretty chill. In any case, thank you to the one single channel member who embraced the Chat Doom guy and earned a shoutout. Be sure to like and subscribe to boost me in the algorithm. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.